Rachel Zegler is getting a lot of hate.
Do I think she made some mistakes along the way? I do. She made quite a few mistakes along the way.
When she landed a big role like this and realized that this is not the character that she really wants to portray.
And I feel like, especially with people like this that have like these types of viewpoints, I don't see her coming back from this at all. I think she is totally cooked with this.
She should have given that role to someone who really understands that character and loves that character.
She walked out beaming, radiant, poised, like she owned the moment. But within seconds, that smile cracked. The second Rachel Zegler stepped on stage, everything changed. The energy didn't just shift, it dropped. And not in a way anyone saw coming. This wasn't a glitzy red carpet or a carefully curated press junket. This was raw, unfiltered, brutally real.
Honestly, girl boss narratives suck. They are either overpowered, poorly written, forced down the audience's throat, and it just looks like I'm staring at TikTok modern women posts that always talk about men are trash, men are this, men are that. They finally got the opportunity to do that, especially with this buffoon right here. I still don't know why she's still alive. And before you start saying I'm sexist, here are some well-written female characters. This woman right here is way better. So is she. And her too. Man, I love this girl, honestly. She couldn't fit in the background, but Debbie is definitely number one.
As she stood under the spotlight, expecting cheers, what greeted her instead was a wave of cold, rising boos. Loud, raw, and impossible to ignore. The sound sliced through the room. Her expression changed in an instant. Eyes wide, hands unsteady. And then she cracked. Right there, in front of the cameras and a sea of stunned fans, Rachel Zegler broke down. But this wasn't just a rough night. It was the tipping point of a storm that had been brewing for months, maybe even years. A moment she likely never thought would come.
I never wanted to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have when I say that this has been the biggest adjustment of my life. Like understanding the way my life operates now, being who I am, and the things that I've been so fortunate to make. It comes with so much ground that I never thought I would be able to cover, and that people think I'm doing poorly, and other people think I'm doing gracefully, and I don't think I'm doing it at all.
The fall from Hollywood's golden girl to one of the most booed women in Disney's recent history didn't happen overnight. It was a slow-motion collapse, masked by designer gowns, polished interviews, and a camera-ready smile. But it all unraveled here, in a moment so raw and gut-wrenching that even her loudest haters paused. How did it get this far? What made fans turn so viciously? And so publicly? And more importantly, what happened after the breakdown left the entire room in stunned silence?
Rachel Zegler is back in the news because her PR team is working overtime right now to fix her image because so many of these resurfaced video clips of her just make her look really, really bad. What matters here is perception. Who she actually is actually has little consequence on any of this. How she's perceived by the world. That's what matters. Right. And how she's perceived by the world is not good because she hasn't been able to escape these interview clips, which show a clear disdain for the company she works for, a clear disdain for the story in which she's been hired to help portray and tell. Who she is really has little bearing on any of this. At the end of the day, Disney doesn't care who she really is. I'm sure the people that love her, her friends and family, she's plenty nice to them. That's not what matters here.
Just a short time ago, Rachel Zegler was Hollywood's golden ticket. Handpicked by Steven Spielberg to headline West Side Story and crowned Disney's next live-action princess. She was the breakout star, the one to watch. Magnetic, insanely, talented, and seemingly untouchable. Her very first performance earned her a Golden Globe, launching her from complete unknown to overnight sensation. Industry insiders couldn't stop raving about her range, her presence, her future.
Yeah, well, we're busy, of course. Vita opens at the Palladium this summer, so we're collaborating with Jamie Lloyd again, following Sunset Boulevard. Well, Rachel was desperate to play Baron. You know, it was her idea, and we saw an audition tape, and she was absolutely sensational. You know, she worked with our musical supervisor in New York on the material. Her versions of the songs were terrific. Jamie's excited, Andrew and Tim are excited. So, I mean, it should make for a fabulous summer at the Palladium. Ticket sales are already, through the roof. So we're we're really thrilled about that.
Critics crowned her the next big thing, and for a while, it looked like she could do no wrong. But behind the standing ovations and glowing headlines, cracks were already beginning to show. Industry whispers grew louder, quiet talk of behind the scenes, tension of a rising star who was undeniably talented but still untested. And as Rachel Zegler's fame skyrocketed, so did her presence online. She wasn't just acting, she was speaking out constantly, and not always carefully.
A lot of what you see with Zegler is really just a pretty common Gen Z mentality and approach to work. She believes that she should be able to express herself and speak her truth or whatever nonsense, regardless of the consequences to everybody else. In reality, you have a job. You're getting paid to do this job. You signed on the dotted line. You took on the role. And that job comes with certain basic responsibilities. And one of the most basic is the responsibility to control yourself and comport yourself a certain way publicly so that you don't harm the project, thereby harm all the hundreds of other people who are working on it.
From calling classic Disney films weird to casually dismissing decades of beloved storytelling with sarcastic one-liners, Rachel Zegler wasn't earning fans. She was pushing them away. What should have been charming press moments turned into viral controversies. Instead of winning hearts, she sparked outrage. Her interviews, designed to hype upcoming releases, became fuel for memes, backlash, and a growing online storm she couldn't seem to escape.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still lined up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and at everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Comment sections turned ruthless, once cheering fans, now openly hostile. The very audience Rachel was meant to lead into Disney's next golden age began backing away. Fast. What once felt like a star on the rise started to look more like a ticking time bomb. And no one knew when it would explode. Until now.
Girl power, girl boss. Everyone needs to be a strong, independent woman that don't need no man. And everybody is tired of that. Everybody is sick of that, and everybody is ganging up on Rachel. She dealt with some really, really severe backlash, which I can kind of understand, but me personally, I'm not under the impression that she wasn't maybe coached to make this happen, to create some type of a draw for the movie, because this is the narrative that Disney particularly is trying to push.
It all came crashing down with Snow White. What should have been Rachel Zegler's crowning moment quickly spiraled into a full-blown PR disaster. Rather than celebrating the magic of the iconic fairy tale, Zegler came off as irritated by it, as if the very legacy she was chosen to represent was more of a burden than a blessing.
Disney, get your girl. Rachel Zegler is making it very difficult to be excited for the new Snow White movie that's supposed to come out next year. If you are living under a rock, there's been a lot of controversy about the fact that Rachel Zegler is playing Snow White in the film. That's not where my problem comes. I'm all for it. Go for it. But what she's doing in press, and these are interviews that I believe were done before the actors' strike, but of course are now being brought up on the internet. She's basically talking about how much she didn't like the actual original movie, even saying that it scared her. And then talking about how the love story in this isn't really going to be at the forefront, that the prince, yes, has been cast, he's in it, but might be cut, Hollywood, and that the prince in the original film was problematic and was creepy because he was stalking Snow White. I just can't believe that Disney's PR hasn't silenced her on this yet. The live-action movies already have a problem where people are kind of over them and they don't like the changes that are being made from the originals to these. And with this one, we're definitely going to see some change.
It all unraveled with Snow White. What should have been Rachel Zegler's crowning moment turned into a public relations catastrophe. Rather than embracing the charm of the original fairy tale, Zegler came across as dismissive, even annoyed, by the legacy she was stepping into. Interview after interview, she called the original film creepy, mocked the prince as a stalker, and declared that her Snow White wouldn't resemble the classic in any way. Maybe she was aiming to sound modern, bold, and empowered, but to millions of fans it came off as smug, disrespectful, and tone-deaf. Disney purists felt blindsided. Younger fans hoping for magic were left confused, and conservative voices jumped at the chance to use Zegler as a symbol of everything wrong with woke Hollywood. Clips of her interviews went viral for all the wrong reasons. Hashtags calling for a boycott surged. Some fans didn't just want her recast, they wanted the entire film scrapped, and the backlash, it didn't silence her. She doubled down. That only added fuel to the fire. Her name stopped appearing next to words like trailblazer and started trending alongside ungrateful and arrogant. Public sentiment shifted sharply. Suddenly, Rachel Zegler wasn't the breakout talent with the golden voice. She was the villain rewriting fairy tales no one asked to change. But that was only the surface. Behind the scenes, things were reportedly just as messy. As the backlash grew louder, industry insiders started to whisper, and what they shared only deepened the damage. According to multiple alleged sources, working with Zegler wasn't exactly a Disney fantasy. On the set of Snow White, rumors of tension and diva behavior began circulating. Some claimed she demanded script changes to align with her personal beliefs. Others said she clashed with costume designers over Snow White's look. The tipping point? Her rehearsals for Evita, what was supposed to be her grand leap into Broadway, allegedly devolved into chaos. Leaked comments from production insiders painted her as controlling and difficult to direct. It's like walking on eggshells. One source reportedly said, "She has to be the smartest person in the room, or you pay for it." These weren't random online trolls. These were seasoned professionals raising red flags. And just like that, the narrative flipped. She wasn't seen as a misunderstood artist anymore. She was now the problem. Then came that moment when it all crashed in real time. A carefully planned appearance at a fan expo in Los Angeles was meant to be her redemption arc. Controlled Q&A, prepped statements, tight security. Her team had prepared for weeks. But what they couldn't prepare for was the crowd. As she stepped on stage expecting applause, she was met with silence, then murmurs, then the unmistakable sound of booing. Low at first, then swelling louder, more brutal. One voice cut through, "Not my Snow White!" Another shouted, "Go back to Broadway!" The cameras were rolling. Zegler froze. Her smile faded. You could see the panic in her eyes. She tried to push through, to speak. But the crowd wasn't having it. Her voice cracked. Hands trembling, mascara running, she turned and walked off stage, visibly shattered. Within minutes, the footage was everywhere. Rachel Zegler Live trended before the event had even ended. But what happened next was even more bizarre. Just hours later, the footage began vanishing. Original clips were hit with copyright strikes. Fan accounts reported shadow bans. Comments critical of Zegler mysteriously disappeared from official pages. Her team released a vague statement calling the moment a powerful example of artistic vulnerability, but no one was buying it. The timing felt too perfect, too choreographed. Industry insiders began to whisper again. Was the whole breakdown part of a crisis PR strategy? One alleged source claimed a high-level image repair firm had been hired weeks before. Their goal? Humanize Zegler, show her breaking under pressure, reclaim public sympathy. Instead, it backfired. Hard. Viewers weren't moved. They were enraged. "She's crying because people finally said what we were all thinking," one viral comment read. Another said bluntly, "Too little, too late." And the internet? It exploded. As the footage made its rounds on TikTok, X, and YouTube, it ignited a cultural firestorm. On one side, critics who felt vindicated, former fans, Disney loyalists, entertainment bloggers, saying Zegler's downfall was long overdue. Memes flooded in. Supercuts of her past interviews were edited into mockumentaries, charting her fall like a tragic TV arc. But others weren't cheering. A second wave of voices pushed back. No one deserves to be publicly humiliated, they argued. Influencers, actors, and mental health advocates called it cyberbullying, pointing to a dangerous shift in fan culture where criticism mutates into cruelty. When did it become normal? To show up just to tear someone down? One viral post asked. Suddenly, Zegler wasn't just a controversial celebrity, she was the face of a deeper cultural debate, a symbol of how far audiences will go when they feel betrayed. And that's the terrifying truth. This isn't just about one actress anymore, it's about what she represents. Because right now, Rachel Zegler stands at a crossroads. No PR team can walk it for her. After the tears, the booing, and the backlash, the real question isn't whether her career is in trouble. It's whether it's even salvageable. Hollywood is a strange beast. It builds stars fast, but it burns them faster. And Zegler's journey from breakout darling to lightning rod has become a cautionary tale of how quickly it can all fall apart. So what now? Does she go silent? Disappear for a year or two and let the chaos fade? Or does she speak again and risk fanning the flames further? It's a brutal gamble either way, because Zegler doesn't just have a PR problem, she has a public trust problem. And rebuilding that's a whole different story. The backlash wasn't born from one misstep, it came from a slow, painful realization that the person audiences once rooted for didn't seem to like them back. That disconnect, the sense of being looked down on, cut deeper than any controversial quote ever could. She's not navigating this storm alone. She's part of a larger wave of resentment toward what many see as performative activism in Hollywood, where old stories are rewritten to spark headlines, not inspire wonder. Whether fairly or not, Zegler has become a stand-in for that frustration. When fans booed her, they weren't just booing a single actress, they were booing an industry. So what does a comeback even look like? First, silence. The internet forgets fast, but only if you stop feeding it. Then, reinvention. A real one? No polished apology tours, no vague Instagram posts. If she speaks, it has to be raw, honest, unfiltered. Maybe a long-form podcast where she talks as a person, not a performer. And when she returns to acting, no more empowerment tropes or reboots. She needs roles that show depth, contradiction, fragility, something indie, something small, something that reminds people she's not a brand, she's a person. If she nails it, if she truly shifts the narrative, the public might forgive. They always do when it feels real. But that's a big if, because right now Rachel Zegler's name carries weight. Not the good kind, the kind that makes studios nervous, theaters hesitant, and investors wary. Some insiders believe she'll be forced into smaller roles, supporting characters, streaming projects, anything to rebuild quietly. Others say she may pivot out of acting altogether, becoming a content creator or brand partner. But none of that works unless she finds a way to connect again, not with critics or PR reps, but with real people. Because whether you love her or hate her, one thing is clear, people are still watching, still talking, still waiting. That attention, painful as it is, means she still has a chance. A slim, brutal, maybe 1 in a million chance to turn it all around, but only if she finally gives the public what they've been waiting for all along, something real. Something real.